Hello, No Code Summit. Good morning. Woo! We did it. We're all here. So first of all, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. This is super excited. It's my second year coming, which, you know, there's only been 2, so 100% attendance rate. But just, yeah, really excited to be here and talk about, you know, really my journey from going from being a super scrappy workflow builder to starting to scale at some of the companies I was at, and also some of the inspiration for, you know, why we built NoCodeOps as a community and operator as a platform. Let me see if this works. We're going to give it a shot. If this was running on no code, it would be much. There we go. Okay. So agenda for today is just I want to talk a bit about my journey, right? Because I find that a lot of no-coders like myself came from a non-traditional background. So go over a little bit of my background. Talk about, you know, when, you know, errors, how they could impact critical workflows, the rise of the no-code operator, and the paradox of success. So these are just like all the different topics we're going to be covering. So here we go. Try to go back one. There we go. So, if I didn't introduce myself earlier, my name is Philip Lakin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of NoCodeOps. And my journey started actually as an actor. Ever since I was a little kid, I was doing acting in films across Cannes and Tribeca Film Festival, a lot of off-Broadway stuff, Gossip Girl, Law & Order. And when I was an actor living in New York, I was a very mediocre waiter. I never really climbed the ranks of being a waiter. And so I started my own company called Your NYC Concierge that was a guerrilla marketing and promotion service. And one of our clients, Get, which is an Israeli-based Uber competitor, offered to acqui-hire me and my team. But instead of using our team to recruit new customers, they want to use our team to recruit new rideshare drivers. So steal drivers away from Uber and Lyft and bring them onto the Get platform. And when I started at Get, they said, you know, we're doing everything with pen and paper right now. We really want to digitize this. We really want it to be able to be done in the field so you can recruit drivers without them ever having to come to the office. And I said, that sounds amazing. What tech team do I work with here to accomplish this? They said, no, my friend, you're in operations. You are your own tech team. And so that is where I learned tools like Pronto Forums and Zapier and Airtable. And I don't know if anyone remembers the old Airtable competitor. It was called Fieldbook. Does anyone remember Fieldbook from back in the day? Yeah. So way back then. I got recruited at Compass, a real estate technology, to build out no-code workflows there for their onboarding workflow for real estate agents across the US, help them even go public, all on no-code tools for the onboarding program. And when I found out that no-code was a term that you all existed, I got really excited because I was like, oh my gosh, there's other people like me that aren't developers, but aren't product managers, but are somewhere in the middle. But then I got kind of let down because most of the people in the no-code world were talking about being makers, entrepreneurs, founders, side hustles, which I thought was incredible, but no one at the time was talking about operations for no-code, how to be an intrapreneur, how to, you know, do sales ops, marketing ops, people ops using no-code tools. And that's what I cared about. So I started a newsletter called NoCodeOps, which is now over 10,000 subscribers. We turned it into a community, which is managed by our lovely community manager here, Claudia. We have over 900 folks now, actually over 1,000 folks in our community, which is on Discord. It's free. We've just started about 2 months ago getting gigs for our community members. So we have a lot of consultants and people that do side work in our community. And so about once or twice a week, we get job offers that we just pass for free right through the community. So we just helped someone get land a job at Mercury Bank. We just helped someone launch like an MVP of their product. It was like a $15,000 bubble project. So we love doing that for our community members. But the cool thing was we spent over 2 years just doing interviews with potential customers about what we wanted to build for our product. And that ended up being Operator. So what we found was that many people who were starting to, they brought no code into their company, got really exciting, and then they needed to start scaling this stuff, getting more applications involved, getting more team members involved. What all these people, all these customers would do was build this crazy big spreadsheet of here's all my automations, here's what they do, here's what fields they touch, here's what apps they touch, here's who's responsible for it, here's when we changed it, here's what would happen if it would break, all manually updated in a big, massive spreadsheet. And we said, this is crazy, it should be automated, we're automators. And so we built the first automation management platform solely dedicated on Airtable and Zapier, where we've automated that spreadsheet. With Operator today, you plug in Zapier and Airtable, we instantly recreate that spreadsheet for you, keep it updated live, and we can show you things like all of your changes, every single metadata change in Zapier in a timeline, every single Airtable change that's related to your Zaps, and if any of them cause any issues, like say you have a client or you have a team member that gets a little frisky with an Airtable field that's connected to one of your Zapier automations, we can actually alert you before it breaks. So we've built all that today, and Make and Airtable automations are also coming soon for operators. So would love to jam on that towards the end. So let's talk about you, right? More importantly, the rise of the operations hero. So this is the story we heard over and over and over again when we were talking to community members and all of the future beta customers of Operator. You get tasked to do something, let's call it lead routing, right? Something that was happening super manually at your company, but you're given no dev team support, and you find something like Zapier or you find something like Make, and you fix this problem. Amazing. But now you've got some new problems. First of all, word spreads that you're the person to go to when IT says no, or when the dev says no, it's go to Claudia. Claudia knows how to use tools like no code. She'll fix it for you. So word spreads, and now other teams like, say, marketing want in on this stuff. Now they've got their own ideas. Your sales leadership team says, let's throw in a few quick weekly requests, and then all of a sudden you're now being tasked with training people how to use things that you've built, how to not break things. And maybe another department says, you know what, we want to open up our own Zapier account. Can you train us how to use Zapier? And now you are your company's main go-to for all things no code. And we call that the paradox of success. So basically, what got you to be successful is now causing the downfall. And so now you're balancing constantly building and maintaining. Which brings me to my favorite quotes on this front when you're going from Scrappy to scaling, which is, what got you here won't get you there. So, so important. Oftentimes, as either entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs or creative folks, we sometimes, and I know I do, tend to rely on, well, if I know how to do this thing, I just want to keep doing it, instead of learning a new way of thinking about it because it's reached a new level of importance. And so let's talk about what got you here, right? What got you to be the person at your company or your agency who was the person to go to for all things no code? Well, first you built first and you asked later. You didn't ask for permission. You said, these are my limitations. I'm going to go out and build some free, scopes of work or some prototypes. I'm going to figure it out, and I'm just going to ask questions later and show off what I did. The documentation typically lives in your head. You don't have time to document. You're just building. You're ignoring errors until they impact other people, right? It's not your main priority. And there's really no need to prove any return on investment because there is no investment, right? You are either getting little to no investment in everything you've done when you are being really scrappy internally at your company. And all of this stuff works really well to introduce no code into your company's ecosystem. However, we've got to flip a lot of these scripts when we start scaling and more critical things start relying on us. We don't want IT and devs to take back away all the hard work that we did and start getting further removed from the solutions that we're building. So asking first and build later. I love when doing this, when talking with internal stakeholders, is starting with problems and not solutions. Everyone here who's a no-coder, we love getting nerdy about the solutions. We want to talk about how it works and what's under the hood. And, even when someone's talking to me, and raise your hands if you've ever experienced this, someone at my company is explaining a problem, and I'm already building the workflow in my head. Anyone else do that? Yeah, right? So the thing is that's good for us to know, but when you start with solutions, people, they shut down really fast. They don't want to hear that stuff. They want you to learn their problem. And so it's just like when you talk to customers externally. So start with their problems. Really dive in deep before bring up any solutions. The end product that you build in automations should not be a surprise to anybody at your company. By the time your product launches, everyone should go, oh yeah, this is a thing we all kind of worked on and talked about. This is great. It shouldn't be, wait, what is this? What did we give Phil the right to do? For what department? Everybody should be looped in. You should be talking about it all the time with multiple folks early and often. Even folks like IT and procurement. Bring them in early. Listen to their needs. And then finally, creating an automation development lifecycle. So in software, there's a software development lifecycle. And in the world of no-code automation, it's always been, you think about it, you build it, you wait till it breaks. Now that things are starting to get more sophisticated, more downstream applications are starting to get involved, more critical workflows are starting to come through, multiple people could be responsible for the same workflow. Having an automation development lifecycle, even if it's as simple as stages for your automations and tagging those, things like this is test, this is under review, this is in maintenance mode, this is archived, this is being debugged. Having that public to the rest of your team, even if it's in a spreadsheet or a tool like Operator, really, really, really useful when you have multiple people looking at stuff. Next is fostering a culture of documentation. So what I like to say with documentation is this. I always like to start with documenting what I wish I had when I was debugging. If I am documenting wild amounts of information I'm never going to use, one, I'm not going to be incentivized to keep doing it, and two, no one's going to read it. So I like to start with like very simple things. What fields does this rely on? Why did I build this? Why did I make certain decisions over others, right? Those simple things that I always kick myself when I'm like looking back at my automation, where I'm like, I wish I wrote X about this so I understood what I was about to break or what decision I was about to change. Best practices are focusing on consistency over extensiveness. So even if it's a small amount of documentation, it's like a muscle. It's good to just start doing often and small over just doing it a large amount of it. I also like to think about different documentation types. Documentation is not one size fits all. You have to think about who is the user of this documentation. If you are in a team of a lot of other people who are building, you might be building architecture documentation, something like Operator, where you can see how different workflows work and why this was built, how this was built, how the system is mapped out. But there also might be user journey maps, which is also documentation. What is the user who is going through this automation? What is their journey? What email do they get? What form do they fill out? What is that version of the journey? Something really good for clients to actually show people they're building automations for. And then there's the how to use this. How many people here use a tool like Tango or Scribe or anything like that? Cool. So these tools make it really easy to build how to do this documentation. Tango.us is the website. Basically, you can click through how someone should do a process as a end user, and it records it via a Chrome extension and then creates the documentation for you automatically. Really amazing tool for that type of documentation. And then I also, I mentioned this earlier, but covering the how and the why. Not only how does this work, but why did we build it in the first place, and why did we make certain decisions? If you build automations, there are going to be errors. All different types of errors. And knowing that that is going to happen, the more that you are relying on these systems, the better. So implementing monitoring tools and workflows. I know Zapier has things like Zapier Manager that's really good for sending certain error alerts. But knowing that you're going to expect certain errors, and either the bigger you are, having some kind of Trello board or ticketing system, right? Really important. If you're working at a larger company, if something is down that is critical, immediately communicating to folks at your team or your company, we have an incident, here's what's happening, please don't use this, stay in touch for next updates, keep updated. I always like to think of when errors happen for a critical thing, it's actually a great moment to not go, oh shit, but to go, hell yeah, my company's about to see how important my work is, right? So using those break moments for internal marketing and staying communicative, huge. When role-based access control doesn't cut it, because we all know that every different no-code tool has a different level of permissioning, I like to use things as simple as, hey, I'm going to put a lock or an unlock icon that means don't edit this CRM field in the CRM field. Really, really good for clients. Operators eventually solving for that with a Chrome extension where you can hover over a field to see, hey, what's this field connected to? But for now, emojis are great for that. Every automation should have a single point of accountability. And if that single point of accountability leaves the company, those should all get reassigned. And then lastly, linking error resolutions to relevant documentation. If something went wrong and you fix something, you should make that resolution findable in the documentation related to that automation. Because the next time somebody comes back to that, they're going to want to see that. If your resolutions are buried in tickets, no one's ever going to find that when they're going to solve things. So making sure that your resolution to your automation problems and your documentation are cleanly linked together. And then lastly, instead of having no ROI, now you've got to prove ROI to keep your tool budget, right? Your budget for automations at your company could be going now from, $20 or free a month to $500 to $1,000 a month. And so you've got to ABCD. Always be communicating dividends. Dividends was the best word I could come up with for investment that was a D. So you have to show your work with roadmaps and feedback loops. The best thing I did when I worked at Compass on this front was we used a tool called Canny. There's several tools like this now where it's like public upvote boards where people can upvote on like product stuff. We did that for our internal users. I had 150 end users at my company who were relying on my automations, and I would let them see a board of here's all the features that everybody wants. Feel free to update, put in new requests, upvote them. They felt involved in the process, and it really helped me with everything from gaining confidence from them to gaining buy-in and more resources. And also feedback loops. If you do something on a roadmap, tell that person you did it. Right? Oftentimes I feel like when I update things on my roadmap, I don't tell people, or the actual person that requested it. Let them know. Highlight specific success stories. If you have success stories that are happening because of your automation, run a time trial. John in operations used to take 5 hours a week to do this process. It's now 30 minutes. Record and share that story with the team. People relate to stories. And then regularly showcase ROI. And ROI could be time savings, cost reduction, error reduction, increased output, improved data quality, higher customer satisfaction. And by the way, Mike Cardona from Hidden Levers, amazing, amazing voice in the automation and AI community, did a whole worksheet that you can steal on Notion. I made a link for it, tinyurl.com/hiddenleversai. It's a full worksheet on how to prove ROI for automations. And I give an example of his work here. So this is a great KPI tracker, right? Your work is not good enough at a company because when automations work, it's seamless. It's invisible. It's not good enough that your thing just works. You have to market your work. And by doing so, you'll gain more buy-in, more resources, and more trust to build bigger and more complex things and potentially even grow a team. And so, having some kind of KPI tracker, what's the name of this, the description, what are the goals for it, what are the current benchmarks, what are the metrics versus targets, what is the time frame that these metrics were tracked over. Just showing this to someone is super good for buy-in. However, there's a caveat. Your ROI story has to change depending on who you're talking about it to. So IT is going to care about certain things. Your dev teams that you have to integrate are going to care about certain things. The business leadership team is going to care about certain things, and end users are going to care about different things. So tailoring that ROI story for each is really important. I give an example of that here with the kinds of questions they come with. So this is one of the Zaps that today is live, currently runs all of one of our full lead funnels at our company. So form comes in through Webflow. It's filtered for spam. And then we format it to, here, I'll go over here. We format it to lowercase. We send an email right away confirming to the person we got your we got it. We find the record in Airtable to see if we have that lead already. If we do, we just update another record that is then automatically linked to that lead. If the lead does not exist, we then create that lead, and then we go down different paths for adding them to our newsletter if they said yes, and if they're matching our ICP criteria, ideal client profile, which is they are an Airtable and Zapier user, we send a Slack notification so we can jump on it. So when IT looked at this, they're going, whose auth is sending those emails? Right? Is that a service account? Is that a personal account? When the devs look at this, they're going to go, whoa, 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 which version of our Webflow is this form connected to? The business leadership is going to say, wait, this is interesting. How many leads that go down here are qualified versus unqualified, and are we measuring that? And an end user is going to go, wait. I'm looking at this map, and I'm thinking, are qualified leads not ending up in our newsletter because they're going down a different path? And then for those of you that don't know, something that took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out with Zapier paths, your data doesn't just go down one path. What it does is it checks the criteria for each path and goes down all the paths for the criteria which it meets. So if you signed up for our newsletter and are an ICP, you're going to go down both paths. If you want to filter people out, that's what the filtering function is for. So good little Zapier tip. Last slide here on quick wins. So 5 quickish wins. Service accounts versus auth accounts. A lot of times when people are setting up automations, they will use a personal account like Philip at NoCodeOps.com's Airtable account or Philip at NoCodeOps Gmail account, which for certain things, personal apps is fine, right? But when it's at the company level and you want it to be more stable, for something like an email that gets sent out regularly, you may want to use automations at or hello at. That way, it never changes even as people come and go from your company. So really good for stability using service auths versus just personal auths. Regular show and tells are really important. At Compass, what we would do is we would get one person who was like the systems kind of thinker on their team from every department around the US on a bi-weekly call. It'd be about 15 people. And we'd all show each other the things that we were doing with automations at our company. And we would learn from each other. And then sometimes we would take some of those things that were happening locally and bring them up to the national level. So, if you have more than just 1 or 2 people or different departments, have show and tells. Show each other what y'all are building. Good inspiration, good collaboration. Internal certification programs. If you have more people starting to want to use these tools at your company, I think I've fallen victim to this where I'm just like, it's 2023, everybody knows how to use Airtable, or everyone knows how to use Zendesk. So if I just give you an account, you should know how to use it, right? But the reality is, these tools are still very new. And a lot of people don't know how to use them to the level that you do as the no-code evangelist. So having some type of internal certification program, whether you're using Aaron from Automate All the Things as Airtable course, or you're using some kind of Zapier flow framework, right? Like there's tons of different ways to have internal certifications. Make maintenance visible to your stakeholders. Sometimes when we're automating, we're just like maintaining a lot instead of building, which is fine. Our goal at Operator is that you maintain a little bit less and build a little bit more. But when you are doing a lot of maintenance work, a lot of behind-the-scenes work, make that work visible to all those different stakeholders, right? It's not good enough to just keep the lights on. Sometimes you got to show people the work that goes into keeping the lights on, which further drives value. And then lastly, if you need more resources, sell the pain, not the benefits. We are all no-code nerds here. We love shiny new tools that do interesting things and have great features. But our managers typically never care about that stuff at larger companies. So what sells them, I find, one, if you can tie it to revenue, always tie it to revenue. That's why sales ops always has the best tools, right? But if you can't tie it directly to something like revenue or a major KPI at your company that's currently existing and you need this thing, sell life insurance. Sell the pain. Say, this is what would happen if we don't do this. If we don't do this, here's the scenarios that could happen. We could lose all of our lead gen. We could just not know when our lead gen stops. We could be corrupting our CRM with bad data quality, right? And that can cause hours and hours of backlog. Sell the pain when you can't sell the benefits to the right audience. And so this is my information. You can find me. So NoCodeOps is our website where you can find out about, apply to join our free community. Also find out and get a demo of Operator. I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn. And if you scan this, this is all of my info and websites and everything. It'll just go right into your phones. It's super easy. Yay, automation. So with that, what I'd love to do is just open it up for questions. And if we have time, I can give a little demo of Operator, but I'm more interested in hearing your questions. So any questions? Yeah?
We work with a lot of clients externally who have their external Zapier accounts. Will Operator have the capacity to have third-party access to their accounts so we can manage all of their accounts?
Awesome question. So in regards to, thank you. In regards to third-party accounts on Operator, not today. It is once we add Make and Airtable automations, is like some other core integrations, then we will add the ability where one agency can hook up to several accounts. We're just not doing it quite yet because we really want to nail the core functionality first. So what we have today is agencies will use us and just give one account per person. A little bit annoying for them to switch between accounts, but they typically will charge the user a monthly maintenance fee that is, baked in. Yeah. But soon, very soon, next year. Yeah.
Okay. So Operator, it will help you monitor the evolutions in the no-code stack, right? Will it also help me monitor the run? I mean, how many tasks I've used in Zapier, or how many new records I have in Airtable?
Yeah, awesome question. So with weekly runs and errors, let me just go back here for a second because I can at least. Would you mind going back to the screen that has the Operator slide on it? This is not going to go fast enough. But here we go, a few more. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning. So right now we track yeah, here we go. Of course. I need this monitored is what I really need. There we go. There we go. Hold on. And okay. So today we track all of your weekly runs and errors here. So we do track that. Overall usage, not yet, though we do have the access to it because we have access to an internal way of just getting metadata from Zapier. So we do have access to it. We just haven't displayed it yet. But we're just showing that week by week right now. New Airtable records, we're not on the record or run level yet. We're just on metadata. So we can show you things like how many fields got created, how many fields got deleted or changed, right? But not in the actual rows yet. Something we're thinking about down the road, but really sticking with the metadata side right now. Yeah, thanks. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I have a little bit of experience with NC Scale, and I'm just wondering what's your position in regard of what they offer in their own apps?
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, we're huge fans. Benoit and his team and us are the two pioneers in observability for no code. So we talk, a bunch, really big fans. I think the difference is that NC Scale's done a phenomenal job at integrating with several applications. And so, Stacker and Xano and WeWeb, right? And I think it leans a little bit more towards, let's call it agencies and makers for who are building their whole application and want to see the whole app, right? We really are deeply focused on the automation, right? And we're typically working with large and mid-sized enterprise companies or the ops professionals that work with those, where the automation is a part of the larger stack. And where I think NC Scale's done a phenomenal job at multiple integrations. We stuck with just 2 for the early days because we really wanted to focus on this looking and feeling exactly like what we were finding out in the wild, which is this literally represents the best, 2 years of research of the best practices of the spreadsheets that we were finding. And so we wanted to build and replicate that so people felt right at home the second they opened our app. And like this links right to your change log. It links right to your issues, right? Everything's super findable. If you open up a card, you immediately see all of your Airtable dependencies. You don't have to like search for them, right? So some key differences, but like if you're Airtable and Zapier and your bigger workflows, this starts to make a lot of sense. But yeah.
So you're okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, I got it. The theme, right, of what you're describing in terms of how to be doing operations has been around the issue, I think, of ownability, right? There's the observability part, which is being able to understand how these machines are running over the term. And then there's the documentation part, which allows people to be able to make changes more easily as they're going forward. Now, when you look at this from the observability point of view, your reaction to the problem was not to talk about, hey, you should be doing X, but let's build a tool, right, that can do it for you, right? I think please do it for me is sort of like maybe the mantra, right, for automation. Yeah. Okay, now let's apply it to documentation. Some of what you're describing was, hey, documentation is important. That sounds like handing out a writing assignment, but what you're saying is the documentation should exist, not that everyone should be sitting down and starting to write paragraphs. So could you speak a little bit to what you have found to be best practices for creating documentation or solving the documentation problem, right, in a high-value way that sort of allows us to apply the best practices of automation like you've been talking about here?
Yeah, I love it. Awesome question. So, I mean, like the first thing is when we sat down with all these folks from different operations teams who were documenting their automations, we said, show us your how do you document this stuff today, right? Because maybe it wasn't perfect, but what it did is the people that were really having the problem were documenting it, and it essentially was our MVP. So what we always found was that, one, they would have a spreadsheet of just like, here's every automation, here's everything it's connected to. They would also typically have some kind of Miro board or Lucid chart of like, here's the flow of data, because we found that an automation workflow is not necessarily made up of one Zap or one Make scenario. It can be multiple, and multiple human touch points as well. So mapping all of that out in an actual visual workflow. And then the third one was like the wiki style of like writing out, here's what it does, here's who to talk to if you need to change it. But it really comes back to what I said earlier around what did I wish I had when I was in a pinch, right? And documenting that. So, for instance, the reason I built something, the why behind it, the stuff that you can't just get by looking at stuff, or you could get after like combing through a ton of emails, right? Like, how can I save time for either future me or future teammates when I'm onboarding them? So they just like, it makes sense. I think the win for documentation and kind of like the best practice is, first of all, it should find me. I shouldn't have to look for it, right? Which is why I'm a big, has anyone here ever used a platform called Guru? It's a knowledge management company. They're really amazing. They're a wiki that lives in Chrome. So whenever you're on a page related to it, it says, hey, here's all the wiki stuff related to this, right? I think that is, making it findable is really important, but you also talked about ownability. I think the other thing about documentation is it goes out of date way too fast because all the changes we make. And so if you're giving yourself this laborious task of writing out every single thing about your documentation, you're not going to do that every time you make an update. But if every time I make an update or I save a version in Zapier, I just go, this is why I did it. That one little nugget can save someone so much time going backwards through it. And then the last thing I'll say around ownability is knowing who made what change, why they made the change, and if somebody wrote documentation, I always like to put, if the documentation platform doesn't do it itself, who wrote this documentation and when was it last approved or verified? And going like through either a quarterly or yearly cycle of re-verifying things. I think really, really helpful and not done enough. Because if you're going to have it, you might as well make sure it's fresh for folks. Does that answer the question? If not, push back.
sorry, I was just hoping you could go a little bit more into the how and the selection of approach for how one creates documentation that meets the kinds of standards you're describing.
Yep.
And maybe get it beyond just a, hey, you should write stuff that contains this, or have stuff that contains this, which still sounds like you're making a writing assignment, which maybe is true for most of what's out there. But what can you automate? Right?
Yeah.
What I mean, the AI can summarize a lot of this stuff. The tools can create. You've alluded to a couple so far.
Yep.
What's best in class?
So best in class one is, and you don't see this here yet, but perfect example.
Yeah.
We wanted to get rid of the fact that people would have to describe what their workflow was doing for somebody that didn't ever want to open Zapier or look at Zapier, like say a client or a non-technical team member. So if you click on today in Operator, one of these, we literally keep an up-to-date description in human English of what that workflow does. We completely remove that from your plate. So that's something we're already doing, right? I know Zapier does it like for certain step-by-step. We will literally do it for your whole automation. Another one is if you're writing automation, documentation, whether it's written by GPT or you're writing notes for yourself, literally linking out, like saying, this field does this. This is why we created this table. It's connected to this. Linking those fields and tables to actual fields and tables, right? Thinking, what would somebody who is looking at this for the first time, who is not me, how would they want to navigate this and work with this? Because I think Google Docs, by the way, and Google Sheets are a great place to start doing this stuff, right? But actually, it's funny, someone literally just shared a really intense article in the community the other day on, like, here's the 5 reasons you should be documenting and how to start. And I think one of the things that really stuck out for me is that, like, don't be scared to start in those tools, right? The last quick thing I'll say is, one of the scariest parts about documentation that always felt like a writing assignment to me was I would get blank page syndrome. I would look at a blank page and not even know where to start. Having an agreed upon template for your documentation, especially for automations, like something like, why did we do this? What fields are here? Who to talk to if this changed? Who are the stakeholders involved? What departments care? And making as many of those drop downs or multi-selects instead of just write-ins, that for me eases the mental burden of just starting to write documentation every single time. I hope that helps.
It does, and it sounds like you've got your next set of lead gen content and tools that you can make for Operator.
I totally do. I'm like taking notes in my head as we're talking. Very cool. Is there any other questions I can answer? Amazing. So here's the thing. Like I said, our community is free to join. It's over 1,000 operations professionals in no-code. Claudia, who's our amazing community manager, is here with me wearing a matching shirt. If you'd like to learn more about Operator, if you're using Zapier and Airtable, and soon next year we'll have Make and Airtable automations, feel free to just come up to me now. Happy to chat at our booth later today. We have a booth on the main floor. Hook you up with some swag and some stickers, which I haven't. I think Claudia brought some stickers. We have a whole bunch of fun stickers if you want to come grab them. But I'd love to talk with y'all. Would love to learn about you and your journey. And even if on anything, whether, at any point in your journey, whether you're looking to get new clients or looking to start a side hustle or looking how to get that promotion or that first full-time job in no-code, every single week I save time on my calendar just to have one-on-ones with folks to just talk about that stuff. So please don't be shy on reaching out on LinkedIn directly and just saying, hey, can we just have a one-on-one chat? I'm struggling with X. I always love doing that for folks, and I'm always happy to do it. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy your conference, and I can't wait to jam with y'all. Bye.